Good more football.
Good morning,
I was just thinking Baltimore. That's literally what I was thinking.
A half to 4 hours, Lamar Jackson
is regular. Email to say, can I please
Cooper and do what they did against the Cowboys. Cowboys came in, top offense in the league. So
to be there.
Your game ball.
Well, like you Niners, defense, the Jets defense did a phenomenal job. They helped them.
That's a big move. That's
game
balls right now.
That's what I'm doing today.
On the Cove.
Cove City. All right, let us know how that email goes for you, Kay. But that's
Like,
the game
we
you
know-
got to go to.
Fingers crossed.
The game. Yeah. Yes, fingers crossed. Good luck to you. What's going on there, guys, as well? Well, Nick Foles' return to his familiar position under center has not gone according to plan. It's enough to make some in Jacksonville.
Game balls right now. Do you see who you got? Well, I mean, there's a lot of options here.
Gardner,
Derrick Henry went off
Coach
to
Doug Moreau
3
will not
points.
hear
This is one of the
Moreau
better
insisting
offenses.
They need to
job.
figure out
They helped
with
the Raiders
guys they
And do what they
have.
did against the
He
Cowboys.
went on to
Niners
say,
look at what they
"Got to keep
move.
fighting,
That's not
got
something
to
you
keep
just do
trying,
overnight.
and
And
they'll
through a
look again and
that's a
probably
Tomlin
try to
make.
find
Do you see who
something
you got?
else.
Well, I mean, there's a lot
Foles
of
coming off
options
his
here.
first
Mike
start
Tomlin
of the
making the move to put the
regular
balls
season
right now.
with
Do you see
zero
who you got?
passing
Well, I mean,
touchdowns since
right
week
now.
15, 2018. Of course, the Jags blowing out by the Titans on Sunday. Meanwhile, Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz, well, he's considered day-to-day with a bruise on his throwing hand, but head coach Doug Peterson says he should be fine to play Sunday against the Dolphins. Wentz had a career-high 4 giveaways in the last
Balls right. Moved into third.
and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones not
wasn't gonna do it.
Sunday's loss to the Patriots in Foxborough, and he made his feelings known, calling it a, quote, significant loss. Jones' comments seen as a bad sign for this man here, head coach Jason Garrett, and his job security, but he continues to just look ahead.
Jerry was pretty critical of the coaching staff and the things that happened in the game. Do you ever think sometimes when he says those things that can undercut messages that you guys have for players?
Again, we just got to focus on coaching as well as we can and playing as well as we can. And there certainly were some things in the game that we have to get better at, and we're going to work on that as a staff and as a football team. But again, our eyes are forward on Buffalo.
You meet with Jerry all the time. Have you talked with him since last night's game?
I have not. You know, typically we have a personnel meeting on the Monday after the game, but we haven't traditionally done that when we have the short weeks. We just get our eyes forward.
Or as he continues to plow along, but those comments that Jerry Jones said after the game certainly cranking up the heat a little bit more on that seat there in Dallas.
Certainly is. Thank you so much, Selva. We'll talk to you in a bit. Time to break down some of the biggest storylines around the league. We call it Believe it or not. Thank you. The Cowboys lost a close one on Sunday to the Patriots. Jerry Jones voiced his frustration after the game, and you heard Jason Garrett's response. So, believe it or not, coaching is the biggest problem for the Cowboys right now.
It's tough. As a player, I was taught at a young age not to blame the coaching staff. It's the guys on the field in between the lines with the jerseys on. But I hear Kyle talking about how loaded this team is, and every time he brings it up, he points to the sideline and says, Garrett has to do better, Kellen Moore has to do better. And I have to agree. You look at what they have on defense, the playmakers from their DBs down the linebackers, the defensive line, and then offensively, you got Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, and Dak Prescott, who had some great moments this year. Why aren't they one of the best teams in the business? So, yeah, I will say that you would have to look to the sideline first before you look on the field to the players.
And we've been looking for years. And this year, it's 12-4 talent, 9-7 team. I watch a lot of the Great British Baking Show. It's fantastic. British people in a tent making cakes.
So good.
They get great ingredients, right? But some of them, the sponge just doesn't have that taste. The thing collapses. If the ingredients are that good for that long, you got to start looking at the chef, and the chef is on the sideline clapping. You got to do it. There he is. That's the chef, Peter.
It might not just be that guy, though. I look at Keith O'Quinn, who is the special teams coach in Dallas, and they had a disastrous night. You saw the Matt Slater block punt. You also saw when Pollard is sitting there 10 yards away from the ball, just completely lost on a kickoff, which you practice all day long. Like,
Peter, we're years down the line. Aren't we past Keith O'Quinn when it comes to Jason Garrett? You know what I'm saying?
It's fair.
Like, we're years down the line.
It's fair, but when you say coaching, I look at it as a giant umbrella, and
Sure.
a lot of the times, the way this thing goes is that one of the minions will take a whack first, and then I don't think they're firing Jason Garrett.
I don't either.
In season. If they lose to this Buffalo team on Thursday night and there are gaffes and miscues and coaching stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry tried to make an example out of somebody.
But
I'm
not
saying that, that person should get fired. I'm just saying I could see how Jerry reacts.
But they already did that. They fired my guy, Scott Linehan.
Yeah.
And they was like, oh, the offense needs to get better, needs to be more creative. And then they let him go. Like, how many people underneath Jason Garrett will get fired before you start to address the men at the top.
Who can the blame possibly fall on? That's what I would ask. If you told me what Dak Prescott's doing this year, having this incredible year, playing the way that he is, I would say this team is 8-3, that they're not sitting there at 6-5, at least at 8-3. So at some point, it can't fall on Dak. It was the other person that you'd think it could fall on if he wasn't performing. It's got to fall on the head coach, the head honcho in charge.
100%. This is the year. Super Bowl or bust.
Weird. The Browns put up 41 points on the Dolphins and played themselves right back into the AFC playoff picture. So believe it or not, Triggs, the Browns are the most dangerous in the hunt column team in the AFC. Take a look.
I'm going with that third team on the right.
Talk about it.
The Tennessee Tannehills. I'll tell you what,
Tannehill Titans.
Tennessee's won 4 of the last 5 games. They run all over you. Vrabel's got them dialed in. I like what the Browns are doing. They have the second easiest schedule the rest of the way for the NFL. But the Titans have something special going on right now, and there's a little juice to this team. They're not just beating you, they're having fun too. I watched the Titans in that 4 o'clock window up against the Cowboys Patriots, and they're on the other window, very small, with very little attention. They absolutely smacked around a Jaguars team that has given them trouble in the past. Titans, AFC South, in the hunt. Don't sleep now, they might be coming.
Segment's called Believe It or Not. I've done my best all season to believe in the Browns, and I'm not going to stop now. They've also rattled off some wins, and there was something when they beat Buffalo where you're like, oh, wait a second, this looks pretty nice. And it doesn't make sense. They lost Myles Garrett. He done. But there's something different about Baker right now, and I cannot think of a more emotional player who could ride a hot streak versus Baker. I think it's the Browns.
It's almost like they figured it out. And it's not just the players. It's Freddie Kitchens. I said in the offseason, he's the biggest X factor. He's kind of like a guy who didn't have money and all of a sudden hit the lotto. How do you spend all that cash? Beginning of the season, he was spending it recklessly. You know what I'm saying? Bought a couple fast cars, a couple mansions.
Coach starter.
1.5 to 4 hours. Lamar Jackson, perhaps the ultimate weapon in football.
Too much money spent, basically. Now, all of a sudden, he got this thing figured out. He's like, you know what?
Does he, though?
I know how to save the money. Right?
I've been on him. I like him.
3-game win streak, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception in that time. It's pretty figured
If you
out.
beat the Dolphins, Peter, you got to get respect.
He's smart with his money, smart with the players right now. He's using them right.
I love what the Browns are doing. I am fascinated to see how this week goes. Not only is it against the Steelers who had this thing, but at some point, you might miss Myles Garrett, who's the best defensive player on your team.
Against the Duck?
He's gone the entire day. Let's see if that starts showing itself a little bit.
Don't lose to the Duck.
Don't lose to
the
Duck.
Duck. Duck is undefeated in the
A lot of teams have.
Don't let Duck get hot. The Browns offense put on a show on Sunday. We'll continue to talk about them, but were you watching the footwork?
A little toe tap flag, Kay Adams.
No, Nate was, and we've got all the highlights from last night to the Ravens blowout of the Rams. Put them on top of Kyle's power rankings.
Hey, here we go. Power ranking time.
You're up.
Took me 12